So I've stopped using these wonderful moleskin notebooks because although it was wonderful to have a place to put my sketches, um, the problem was now if I get a sketch I really like, say for instance these two wackos, now what do I do with it? How am I going to sell that page? My work is for sale. How am I going to sell this now? So it's great to have these things for personal drawing, but when I get something like that, now I need to do something to get it onto the formats that I can sell. So I started drawing just on simple copy paper in terms of like just rough sketching. And then if I get something that I like this, or even this small one here, I have a procedure that I can use to get that onto a good Bristol. So here are remember that thought. Here are the sketches that I've been doing for the Kickstarter book, After Dark. People were able to get 20 people were able to get a sketch each for a certain price in the Kickstarter backing. And then they're going to get one of these sketches at random. They don't know which one they're going to get. So I just tried to make all of them as good as I can. These, almost all of these started off, say for instance, a drawing like that. That would start on a piece of paper like this. And then I would get the pose that I like and then light box it onto here. And I've told you that before. We've covered that pretty well. So let's see, let me find the one that I'm looking for. Like for instance, this sketch. If I dove straight in and started drawing this right on the Bristol paper, you know, this Strathmore paper, there would be so much erasing that the entire page would be filthy dirty. Can you see the erasing and the reworking right there? This whole page would be like that. So in order to have a clean, you can see it up here in the arms where I've erased a number of times. So in order to get this clean, what I would do is it started from a rough sketch like this. And this was a doodle on a piece of copy paper, much like that. And then I figured out that I got a pose where I was drawing freely because I wasn't worried about erasing or paper. And I just drew until I got a pose that was full of life. Then I put it on the light box, and that's the real picture that I worked with. And then you can see that as you're light boxing, you're not tracing, you're using the work that you've done to figure out the pose, and you're getting it transferred onto your good paper. And then you finish drawing. So this drawing is only like 1/10 finished. And then you do the rest of the work here. And there's the Francine side of it. Make sense? You do all of the hard work here to figure out the pose. Now you've got the pose, you light box it on here like that, and then you can go to town and do the finish work for the penciling. That's how that works. So the one we want to talk about today, here, this one. Okay. This drawing here started off as about this size on a piece of copy paper, and this is it. And you can see how much I blew it up in Photoshop to get it to the proportions of the, you know, the 9x12. And this was actually a doodle in my, on the paper that was supposed to be Mary Jane and Spider-Man. And it was just kind of a cute little moment there that you will never find in a Spider-Man book. So I liked the pose, and of course I cannot put a Spider-Man Mary Jane drawing in one of my books and then sell it. So this instantly became Francine. Bangs, changed the face a little bit, not so cocky, more of the sweet girl next door, as opposed to the face it tiger, you just got lucky, you just hit the jackpot. But I did take the pose, and then I finished it out with a moment that would look appropriate for this. So here it is in the pencil version with my toning and the pencil line work there that is carefully done for shading and toning. And let's get it out and look at it real close. That's how I was using the pencil. And all of this is either my fine liner 0.5, 0.05, 0.5. It was either that or just a 2B lead here that gets softer and broader with a broader tip. And between the two of those, I got all the toning in there. Okay, so I had this drawing, and okay, I thought I'm done with that. I'll throw the source copy paper sketch thing away, and this is what I end up with. But then I had another idea that I wanted to do with it, and Robin said, you know, some of these need to be inked for the Lake Como show. I want you to take like 3 inked pieces. And I'm not going to ink this one because the pencil toning is too nice. I don't want to have to erase all that and just have an inked outline or bold ink lines, you know, stylistic stuff. I like the soft toning. So I redid the pose again on the light box. Now this one is drawn for inking. And this is the one I'm going to ink. So for this one, I switched it to Casey, Francine and Casey from Strangers in Paradise. And I used my same pose from the light box. And you can see that I changed things for Casey, you know, just a little bit there. This one does not have all the tones in the hair, the tones in the cloth, the tones in the bustier. It's a very clean pencil drawing, and it's perfect for inking. So that's what we're going to do. That's the difference between drawing for a pencil drawing and drawing for ink. I didn't need to do the toning in the ribbon, but I didn't know this was going to be inked until about an hour ago. And it just works out perfect. So let's ink this. Okay, so I'm going to do this whole thing with a Raphael #1 brush, the 8404 series. That's one of their good ones with the Kolinsky hair. Kolinsky I think is a little critter they use the hair from the tail, I think, for these brushes, sable brushes. They're flexible and durable, and they're supposed to make a good point, although this one has not been a good one. See how it has a cut like that, and there's no feathering around the edges? So even when I have it wet, the point is still, it's not very fine. And it tends to make a broader line. Because of that, I have switched my inking bowl to this flatter watercolor bowl so that it's easier for me to monitor and make sure that I only get ink on the bottom half of the brush and not up there by the chrome barrel, the silver metal. If you totally load the entire brush in there, dip it all in there, this thing is just going to be saturated and flooded with ink, and it'll be really hard for it to come to a point. And that influences your inking, of course. So I'm using this one so that it's easier for me to monitor and make sure that, can you see that? It's hard to get it to focus there, so that I keep that point. That point is everything. Approaching this from start, when I started drawing, I start with the eyes. the face, the outline, and then when I start detailing, I go with the eyes. But that requires a steady hand, and I don't have a steady hand first thing in the morning. So what I'm going to do is I usually, when I'm inking, I start with the hair because it's really hard to mess hair up. If I do too thick a line or I stray, it's going to be okay. So start with the most forgiving section of the drawing. And in a figure, that could be the hair. But if we were doing, a superhero cover, it might be the trash can or the car or the upside down flying armored truck. Start with that. Save the precious details, the stuff that's important. Don't mess it up. Save it for last when your hand is calm and steady, when you're all zenned out and in the zone. Right now, I am not calm. I'm not in the zone. My hand is a mess. I'm highly caffeinated. So we're going to start up here on the hair. Right there, I've already made a decision that I'm not, see how I'm not just outlining? I already know that I'm going to go in here. And I left an open space on purpose because that's where two fine lines of hair are going to go. And by leaving that space, it's an old cartooning thing of leave these little gaps in some of the seams, and it kind of feels like you're not tracing. I don't know if that's the word, but it just feels more alive. The drawing looks more alive. If you look at the older animators and things like that, well, not animators because they do have to close their lines, but the cartoonists, the older cartoonists from the 40s, a lot of open line work like that. Anyway, it just helps bring life to the drawing. So I'm not going in and doing any of these interior lines yet because they all need to be fine lined. And see how my brush is still kind of fat with ink? Do the rubber band. Notice how I'm always pulling. Pull, pull, pull. There's no pushing. And at this moment in time, I'm not doing anything sideways because my hand isn't steady enough to be sideways. See the choice I made there? Thin line for that inside, thick line over here. See how it's almost like calligraphy, isn't it? Like if I was doing a 9, instead of just drawing a 9 like that, I drew this stylistic, looks Arabian, like a saber. And that's just a little pretty moment in the inking right there. And those things add up. And when you get the whole picture with all these little inking choices like that, it looks, again, it's like knowing when to, it's like playing a musical instrument and knowing when to play hard and when to play soft. The brush still is not fine enough to do those lines. I'm using all the ink up, trying to get the ink to where the brush barely has any ink. I'm so serious about getting the excess ink off of here and getting that point. Um, this piece of paper to the side is where I roll the brush and pull it. Just getting all the excess ink off until I can get to that point right there. The point is everything. And in the early days, you know, you go pay $6 for a tiny little drop of ink at the art store. And you think, oh, I can't afford to waste this. But there's no point in inking if the brush tip looks like that. And it's just like, looks like a Sharpie drew it. So yeah, you sacrifice the ink to get the point. Okay. I'm going to stay on the backside over here for now until my hand calms down. Okay, this thing about like, how did I know to go from fat to thin to fat right there? It has to do, I learned it in basic cartooning. Just the simplest cartooning book in the world with about inking will show you, you know, how to go from thin to fat. So this is basic inking stuff. But the principle of it is that you want to show that if the light was hitting this muscle, that there would be more light right here and less light here where it goes down into the joint of the shoulder. So to show more light, you get a thinner line. To show less light, you get a fatter line. So the light source is here. So thin line to fatter line. And you do that with each section. So I'm going to go thin line, fat right there on the other side where the light, now I'm moving the light source. The light source was here. I'm kind of moving it over here now. And it'll be thin, fat, 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 fat. And all this will be fat, 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 fat. Not that the arm is fat, I'm talking about the line. In order to do that, I don't want to like never move the drawing and I'm doing all this. I'll move the drawing to wherever I need to do to pull this thin to fat line. Like that. See? That's how it works. Two thin lines over here to show the highlighted part of that joint. If you were looking at a photograph, there would be shading on this side to show that this is a bulge. So your eye sees it that way. But you can't ink that. You know, it's going to look like crap. So what you end up doing is just two feather lines or something like that right there. And everything else goes away. It's the same thing that a colorist would do. The colorist would put a little arc right there, and then they would do a fade. Like that, right there. That's basically how colorists would do it. So how do you ink that? You don't. You just kind of do your two-line thing like that, and then you're stuck with white paper. Unless the colorist comes in later and does their magic there. So the more subtle you work on this side, the better. Because if you get too much with it, it suddenly becomes looking like an action figure. It's an articulated action figure. Barbie doll. Okay. It still has ink on it. And how that line right there goes depends on how well you know your anatomy. How many times have you looked at an armpit and seen how that line goes right there? And again, you have to know that in the lighting world, the light is like that. But I'm not going to ink that. It just makes things messier because that's too subtle of a graduation right there. So I'm going to leave it alone. There might be an extra bit of skin right there, a little wrinkle, and you can ink that. Okay, in my pencil drawing, the line went that way. In my inking, I went that way, the other way, so that I filled it out more. And that was a choice that I wanted to make. You have your biceps right there. And the bicep would actually, if this was the Hulk, this would be a huge honking muscle. But it's just a very fit Casey. So I'm not going to, make a muscle, but I am going to make that delicate arc right there. And again, a colorist might come in right there and finish that for me. This is why you tend to get loyal with a colorist. If you've got one that kind of gets you and knows what it is you want finished. And I work with only 2 colorists almost my entire career. Brian Miller, who's been with me forever, and Steve Amaker, also been with me forever. 2 great guys, great colors. You have a choice right here. This prominent middle knuckle usually has a stronger tendon. So a lot of times I'll draw some sort of lines right in behind that main knuckle to insinuate the tendon and the shading that would be on that side of the hand. I'm not going to deal with it right now. Maybe I'll deal with it later. And I might just put one line here for there. That's enough of that. And you can see where the colorist would finish that out off my cue. But if there's nothing but ink there, again, you don't want to put the whole line there because now you're drawing the Hulk again. So are you going to draw a bodybuilder or are you going to draw this softer body? And that's the choice you make with this stuff. Now I'm ready for ink. That lasted a long time, that one dip. Important right here. Okay, I was holding my breath. So what matters right here is the inside of the line. The inside of the line is the actual body, and the outside of the line is the accentuation that we're doing with the inking. So this is the part that had to be one smooth line. Otherwise, it looks like, there's ripples or something on that cheek. There. So see how that is one smooth line on the inside there? Look at it from another angle so you can see the line work instead of the butt. That's what I was looking at while I was inking. When I pulled the brush, I pulled it looking at the inside line the whole time, and I let the outside go fat and then pull it back in. That's worth practicing. And I'll do the same thing over here. These lines are super important. Okay, that one underneath the rib cage, there's shading underneath there. So I'm insinuating the shading with my thicker line. And then we're getting to this part where it comes out a little bit here and the light source is hitting it. So there's more light right here than there is right here. There would be a lot of light right there, yes. But if I put a thin line there, the drawing looks bad. So I've got to work with thicker lines somewhere, and I chose to do it there and accentuate the belly over this little point of the rib cage. Because if everything has a thin, if everything on this side is thin lined because this is where the light is, it's going to look bad. Try it, you'll see. I've done that. There's a lot of times where I finished a drawing and I worked, all my lines were too thin and it ends up looking bad. There. Makes sense how it's working? Light right there and then heavier line down there. And okay, I'm just beating a dead horse here now, aren't I? You get it. I'll just do it. This will be my first sideways pull because it's time and I hope my hand is steady enough. This is more important than that, so I'm going to start here. Okay, and the way I do a long line like that, if I look, it's like driving. If I only look at where I am, I'm going to crash. I look ahead. So when I look ahead, I'm trying to let my subconscious take over and just go by instinct. If I look ahead, my brush chases where I'm looking. So like when you're driving, you look where you want to go and it pulls you to it, or riding a bicycle, whatever. Same thing with the brush. I'm looking ahead and pulling myself to it. If I look exactly where I am, my conscious will take over and screw up my subconscious instinct. Instinctively, I'll just make a smooth line every time. The imperfections of a line are where you let your brain get in the way. It's like muscle memory. Like if you're shooting a basket in basketball, you get to the point where it's more body than brain. thinking about it. You just do it over and over. Repetition makes that perfect bat swing, that perfect free throw. And you want to block out all the external crap that you can put in your head to screw that up. And it's the same thing with the brush. If I think about how am I doing? How am I doing? Oh my God, it's fat, thick, up, can't do that. You have to like totally go stoner on it and just be a stoner for a minute. This one was not as important as the top one. This one can be thicker and wave a little bit. This is where some of the strain is going to show on the okay. I really did not want to put this other arm back there, but it just looks so weird if there was absolutely no representation of the left arm. So I went ahead and cheated and showed this elbow back here. In real life, I don't think you'd see it. But I have to have something there. Otherwise, it just looks not right. This is not drawn from a reference photo, so it's me trying to simulate reality. Okay, I've got a little bit of confidence going on with my hand and my brush, and I guess I'm ready to see how the brush has got these nice finer lines now. I can go in and do some of the hair. The brush had to wake up too. I could just start putting all kinds of lines and stuff in here. If she was a redhead and not a platinum blonde, you could do that. You could put in more lines. But Casey is a platinum blonde, so you don't want too many lines. It makes it make the hair look darker if you do that. Test out my hand on this stuff. My hand is still shaking because I've been drawing a lot this week, so my whole hand is sore, and it's hard to get it to not shake right now. I've been drawing all those sketches. Notice that when I inked the line of the jaw, that I inked on the outside of the pencil line, not on the middle of the pencil line. If you ink on the middle of the pencil line or inside the pencil line, you're shrinking the head. So you're changing the size of the drawing. If you work on the outside of the pencil line, the size and the proportions stay the same. Okay, of all these features, the eyebrows are the least precious to mess up, so I'll start there. then the eyelashes. If I had to, I could do the eyes with the brush. I choose not to at the moment. And when it comes to the nose, I will start here. This is the most important part. That way, if I start up here and my brush goes astray, I can't mess up where that is. This is the most important landing point for the brush for the nose lines. I saw an art instructor say that the only two black spots on the face are the pupils of the eye and the nostrils for painters. Take it for what it's worth. If this was a cover, I would leave that blank and let that be red, but all I have is ink. So here we go. Here comes Amazon. Okay, I'm getting to the point where I need to see where I am. So, let's do the rest of the ribbon. .05. And 01. And the absolute finest one I can get, this 0.05. I wish it was a 0.000001. Just a little hint of that. I want so badly to go in there and do these shadings. You know, there's so many things I would do with a pencil, like that. Flush out the eye, warm up the eyes right there, like that. And you could even put in a little toning like that. This is why I tend to mostly draw in pencil, but you can't do that. So this is more of a slick, iconic version. But I can take this over here and do that I had talked about. Is there anything else? One little line there. Little line there. Belly button. Get back to the 05 and finish this front one. Okay, let's see what we have. Let's get in here, and when I erase this, I expect to see gaps in the hair that I'm going to need to fill in with my fine liners. There you go. Because the pencil hides all that. If you erase too hard, you start rubbing off the ink and you lose your beautiful black lines. They become gray stains on the paper. And even erasing my signature there for the pencil drawing. Starting to look like a cover drawing now, doesn't it? Ready for a colorist to get in there and make this come alive. So really all you're doing is providing the line work for a colorist on something like this. That's how it is for me anyway. Or for yourself, if you're going to go back in there and color it or tone it. At least now, having gone over it so carefully with all of your inking and penciling and everything, you know where all your tones are, don't you? Okay. I don't really see anything that I need to go in with whiteout and fix. So I'm using an 03 this time, not a 5. And if I pull quicker on the L3, that's not coming out. If I'm pulling quickly on these on purpose, because if I go slow, you get the full line, but if you go quick, you get that line, and that's what I want. Like that. But this is hair, it's not metal, so I don't want hard fat lines on it. I want those wispy, especially as you go into the skin there. Okay, now I'm slowing it down. And basically, I am toning with a pen. This is where I'd be putting gray tones in if I had a pencil, or coloring. These would be the darker areas. Those, where the lines are, typically that would be where the brown is, and then the light area is where the blonde is. So I'm just kind of simulating that with this, with the pen. Blonde, brown, blonde, brown. And when it comes to hair, I'm trying to have something of a free hand here so that if I get those wispies, that just makes it look better and more alive. You know, now is the time for straight lines to be there. It just makes it all a little, it simulates reality a little bit. You can even add some on purpose. And just like the arm back here, just like the arm, there's also a pigtail back here. And I actually drew it out. There on the back of the skull is about right there, and it's right there, and then the pigtail is flapping over there. So I can't show you the pigtail. I can't show you the left arm. The drama. Okay. I want to do some... I'm coming right here. Okay. The 3 is way too big for that. Again, I'm going to go back to my tiny, the tiniest one I have, the 005, and do the surgeon tool. If I could put it on the edge of a razor blade, I would. See, even that's going to look thick on here. I had a 003. It must have been imported straight from Japan or something, and then I lost it. It's here in the studio somewhere. I don't dare do any more than that. It'll muck it up, and then you've ruined your whole thing. If it was pencil, I would start trying stuff. I can't do that. Ink is unforgiving. And sure, you can go in there with whiteout, and that's great for publishing. But this is a drawing that wants to go find a home and be framed. And so the less of that trial and error stuff on it, the better. Unless it's one of those kind of pieces that's that way on purpose. Okay, I think I'm just looking now for trouble. You know what just went through my mind? Deep Purple, the band. Why? Why did I just think of deep purple? I don't know. Shit. Okay, that line would be there in real life, but I can't put it there on the drawing because it's a tangent line. It looks like it came from the ribbon. If there was no ribbon there, you could put that line there because there actually is a fold. That's the rib cage. And then here's the hip bone. And in between is, well, unsupported organs. And so there's a little piece of skin there that is easy to move. So there you go. I had it until the very last line, and then I put that tangent line right there, and it's got to come off. That line is so fine that if you did not want to put any white out on the drawing, you could take a razor blade and scrape it off, or even get it down to almost nothing and then erase it. And I'm going to leave it there so that you know it's there and I know it's there. But whoever draws it may not know it's there for a long time or until they watch this video. I mean, whoever buys it. Terry, stop before you get in trouble. Okay, stop. Sign it. Stop working on it. What a flamboyant signature. Okay, guys. We changed it from a pencil drawing to an ink drawing. Hope this helped. Thanks for hanging out with me and inking this drawing with me. See you next time.